whatever reason. So he showed up the next week on Saturday and he gave me a free workout. And I really liked it. It was myself and Mario and 2 other ladies at Pavilion at that time. And my daughter joined also. And she thought, this is a lot of fun because the whole hour goes by, but it goes by so fast that you don't, you know, and that's when I started working out at the garage. And then, you know, when they kind of shut down the Pavilion portion for CrossFit, you guys had the garage in Markham. And then I believe at that time, and I can't remember her name, but there was another lady there who was coaching me in your garage, and she opened up a CrossFit in Vaughan.
Yeah, Christy,
thank you. And then I came back. I don't think you guys opened up Woodbridge yet. And Chris, and then I came back to Markham. It means it takes me about 25 minutes to drive to Markham. Yeah. And then you asked, I said, why do you keep on coming here? There's one closer. I said, you know what? I'm very loyal to people. And
we're happy about that.
It was a great help because first, as I age, it's very hard for me to do a lot of what these young girls can do. And I try, but I find that the joints hurt, everything hurts. And now being at home, I'm fine through Zoom. I'm able to do more CrossFit than I actually did coming to the gym because that was, you know, half an hour to drive there, half an hour drive back, right? So that was also a time thing for me. Yeah. But with these online modifications, and Nydia has been amazing sending me other like workouts that I can do for core. Yeah. I find that really helps, and it keeps me stay motivated because I told myself, okay, I already invested X amount of years into working out that I can't give up now. So that's the other reason that keeps me motivated every day at 5 o'clock to shut down my computer and to go to my basement.
That is wonderful. See, love to hear stuff like that.
So Summer, I'm going to be honest truth.
I totally believe you. I think that's fantastic. I'm going to pick on Summer because Summer was also one of our garage girls. She started off, I'm going to just tell you about what I remember about Summer. You correct me if I'm wrong, Summer.
Okay.
I think your first one was we were at a track behind a high school. Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? And she was, I'm going to give this a try. I already have a trainer. So I'll just see how this goes. And I was like, okay. Something like that. And so now you tell your story, Summer.
All right. So someone told me about CrossFit. I'd never heard of it. And I happened one day to be at a coffee shop, and it's not there anymore. Second Cup at Burr Oak in McCowan. And I looked up at the community board and it said CrossFit Markham. I was like, that's odd. I've never seen this before. So I called and it was Anna's cell phone. And I was like, hey, I've heard about CrossFit. I wanted to try it. You're like, oh, great. Come meet us at the track at Brother Andre on Saturday. I'm like, okay. Anything else I need to know? No, just fill up. I'm like, okay. So I drive up to the track at Brother Andre, and I pull up and I see Anna at the time has this big red pickup truck, and she's tossing weights off the back of the truck. And she looks like an Olympic weightlifter. And there's a bunch of young girls that are friends, like Chris's friends. Like, remember Cristina and Teresa, those girls. And I'm like, well, no one has seen me yet. I can probably just back out and go home, and then nothing, like no one will be the wiser. No worries. I'm like, okay, no, I'm here. I got to do this. So Chris rolls in a little bit later, and he actually looks like he'd been on like a pretty late night. And he comes, he's got his sunglasses on. He's like, all right. So you're like, this is my son. And I'm like, okay. He had us doing, I don't even know. It was May. So next month will be my 10-year official anniversary. Yes. It was Saturday at the end of May. It was steaming hot. We were lunging down the track. We were running. We were doing push-ups. We were doing, I don't know, windmills, like you name it. And I'm like, what is this nonsense? Like, it was crazy. And then afterwards, you're like, how was it? I'm like, it was pretty good. You're like, great, come to our house on Monday. I'm like, okay. Somehow I just did. And I spent the summer working out at your house garage, and there were a few people, like Jordana was there here and there. Sometimes it was just me. This was my favorite, Chris, Steve, Anna, and myself. And we'd be sitting in the garage, and I started doing things I hadn't done before, like deadlift and lifting like up to say 100 pounds. And I felt like, wow, I am so strong. And you guys made me feel that way. Like, yeah, that's really good. Like, you've gotten better. And I did all my pull-ups with my band, green, every color that you had. We did a lot of running. But it was just something you couldn't explain to anyone, but you couldn't stop doing it. Like, I just have to keep going back. I think within the first week we did Murph, and it was like in June at this point, boiling hot.
I remember that day.
Explaining this to other people, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "You did this, and you did this, and you did this," and it's just like you get it or you don't. I feel like it's like one or the other. So yeah, I had the summer at the garage gym, and then the rest is history. From the last 10-year history that we've listened to, but I've been there through pretty much all of it. And I had a baby and came back with him after a few months, and he'd sit in the gym and watch me work out. And Anna would go pick him up and give him a squeeze, and he'd let me work out. And he'd sit in that chair until he was like 9 months. It was
yes, he did. Yeah,
crazy and so fortunate for me. Yeah, and now you guys just can't get rid of me. I'm here like forever.
That's right. Now you're one of us.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Before I pick and choose, anybody want to volunteer? Like maybe Margaret? Yes, she's like, hold on a second.
I really wasn't prepared for this. I didn't realize what today's meeting was all about. I thought I'm off today. Let's sign in. I actually thought this was stretch, and then I looked at the time, and it's like, oh no, it stretches after. But let's see. I've started. It's going to be 2 years this summer, in August, and my sister Victoria got me into this. I guess when I started, I was sort of in a dark place. I was, I think, a little bit depressed, and never worked out. Had body images, negative body images of myself, and I thought, hey, I'm getting close to 50, and not happy with myself. So it's been a big change for me. So I've been happy that I started. I was very intimidated starting.
Understandably so.
Yeah, like I said, not working out at all, and thinking, wow, can I do this? And it sort of became a habit and infectious, and even just the way you feel after. The dark thought, I don't want to say dark thoughts. I was just very depressed. Slowly your mind changes, and you become more positive. You become happier. You start seeing changes in yourself, things that I never thought I'd be able to do. And
happy hormones.
Yeah, the happy hormones.
Stuff goes in you. Oh, that's wonderful.
And then, looking forward to coming in. Looking forward to it, and I guess my family saw the change in me. My husband, right, just a few months ago was saying, "You're so much happier. You're not as moody," and they've started coming. So I've got my son Evan. He's a little bit of he's very introverted, so it was nice having him come to the classes. It was something mom and son can do. And then after a few months of Evan coming, my husband's like, wow, Evan's stuck to this, there's got to be something to it. So then he started coming. So now it's become
wow.
Yeah, so Evan, my husband Vince comes, and then slowly my little guy Jordan has been coming to the kids class on the Wednesday and really enjoying it. And it's nice having the whole family there. We see my sister Victoria, and then, like I said, so it's sort of a family affair. So, it's nice coming in.
I love the story. See, everyone has a story. Yeah. And it goes back to other stuff that happens in your life. I absolutely love that. I like to hear that, Margaret, because I don't get to meet a lot of you guys out there in Woodbridge. Mind you, lady, I've been calling everybody and texting. I should get to know you all. I just don't know your faces, but that is such a good story.
Thank you, and I appreciate you also reaching out and texting. And it's like, the first day I saw your text, it's like I said to my sister Victoria, it's like, wow, Anna texted me. It's just like I've never really met her, but she's checking in and texting on me, and she's like, she must really like you. So I really appreciate everything that you guys, the coaches, have been doing. It's been really wonderful.
Oh, you're very welcome. We love what we do. But I love to hear that story. I like that. I like the good things to come out of that. Actually, Steve, if you remember with me, remember when we had this young boy that used to come to our garage and he had a horrible stutter. Do you know who I'm talking about, Steve? Mike? This young guy, anyway, he was coming, started off in the garage, very introverted, very shy.
Oh, yeah, Mike.
Right, Mike.
Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry.
Yeah. He was so introverted and he could barely speak a sentence without stuttering. He was so insecure. And he lasted a few years with us, and he had to go get a full-time job, I remember. But by the time he had left us, his stutter was almost non-existent. His confidence blew up. He was like, that was one of my favorite stories, like of seeing what happens with members or seeing what happens with people. It's like all of a sudden he could move his body in ways he didn't know how. He was strong and he didn't know he could be strong. Do you remember all the stuff that he just did a big turnaround? And I thought, this is part of why we do what we do. I just loved to see that.
He was probably the first person that we saw where it changed their life in so many ways. Like, if you want to talk about like physically extremely uncoordinated, like I remember the first time we made him squat, it was squatting to a bench and he fell forward somehow. Like it was the most extreme case of uncoordination ever, let alone lack of confidence and so many other things. And it was like, man, that guy completely transformed. That was when it was like, I think that was one of the first times we realized, like, holy, this is so much deeper than burpees and deadlifts.
Yeah.
Because burpees and deadlifts are great. And I know like everyone was like, oh, I can lift some weights for the first time ever. But like seeing that kid change was insane. It was totally incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, Boris, it's not about the physical changes. It's about the mental changes. Yeah. So who's going next? Karen. You're going next. Yes, you, Karen.
I don't have an exciting story.
But how did you get in? How did you show up at our door? I always remember you with your little girl. How did you end up coming?
So I was very trapped at home for.
Story right there.
Yeah, for about 4 years. I had a son, and then we had our daughter, and I was just, the minute I had my daughter, I was just home all the time. And I liked it. I'm very blessed to have had that time with her, but I never went out, ever. And Scott's best friend at the time was dating a girl, and she had moved in with him in Markham, and we were trying to support that relationship. And she was just trying to get acquainted with Markham, so I guess she found Markham CrossFit online, and she's like, I want to do this. And at that time, Scott had never been alone with the kids. So in order to support his friend, he's like, yeah, no, you should go do this. By all means, go and try this out. And I went the first time, and it was a Saturday morning, and Ben was teaching, and it was wall balls. And I got smashed in the face with a wall ball. I think I dropped away. It was awful. It was a horrible experience. And then it was, I think, Scott's birthday that evening. We all went out, and she never showed up. We never saw her again for weeks. And I kept going because I think we paid for the month. And I kept going, and she just never came back. So at the end of the month, I had asked her, are you going to join up, or were you going at different times? And she never did. And anyways, long story short, I ended up continuing just because it was a break from the kids. It was the only thing that I was really getting support on. And after a year, I'd lost so much weight. In fairness, I was only doing light fits, but I'd lost a lot of weight, and Scott noticed that I'd lost a lot of weight, and then he joined, and now we really, really like CrossFit. But for me, it was very life-changing. I've told Steve this a number of times. I couldn't move. I was laid up for almost 6 years with a really bad car accident, and I had a brain injury. So it was a very long recovery, and I should have been up and moving a lot faster than I was, and it really set me back. So even now, I took a break for about a week and a half over this time. I just actually went back this morning. On my back, I can't move if I don't exercise. So it's imperative, it's necessary. And I suspect everybody in the world is like that, but for me, especially if I don't do it, it's crappy. So I'm very appreciative of the time and the effort and the great coaches and the kindness.
That's awesome. That's very good. I read an article today in Italy. I forget who the prime minister is. Anyway, but basically, of all the CrossFit gyms in Italy, there has been not one single person who got COVID. Not one. So in Italian, basically said, I wish that they would fucking make everybody work out, because that's how healthy it is. And I wish that was true. I mean, I know that's true. I just wish somehow it'll happen here sooner than we expect, because it is definitely a necessity, physically and mentally. That's how I feel about that. Yes.
On a conference call, so I'm gonna have to say goodbye. But
No worries, Alla. Thanks. Thank you, Alla. Thanks. All right. Giuseppe, you're on, buddy. Yeah, you.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Okay.
Okay.
Busy. How I got started?
Yeah. How did you come in?
That's probably a long story. I think it was someone asked a couple years ago to write your story, how you started here. I think I started writing that, but I never finished it. Let's see. I started, it was basically at the beginning of that year. I went through a bunch of stuff at the beginning of that year.
Mm-hmm.
I had a hernia surgery. I dislocated severely a thumb playing basketball. So for the first 5 months of that year, I couldn't do anything really. So, and at that point, I was just looking to do something at that point. And I actually heard of CrossFit probably 4 or 5 years prior, because a friend of mine in Bolton been trying to get to go to that gym with him.
Mm-hmm.
For years and years. I played ball hockey with him all the time. So I actually ended up checking out that place before I came to this one. And I'm not sure why I just didn't end up, I don't know why I just didn't end up signing up there. I ended up coming here. I talked to Mary, and at that point, I don't think I needed to be talked into it at that point. I needed to do something. I've been playing sports my whole life, but mm-hmm. I don't think I ever really worked out. So, I played at pretty high level. I played at university basketball. I always felt like I was in good shape back then, at least. But it got to the point where I wasn't playing enough to stay in decent shape, so I needed something else. So I came in and talked to Mary. That first day I came in, there was a class, so she told me I could jump in on that class. So I did. I liked it. It was good.
Who was it? Was it Chris?
I think it was Chris. Yeah, it was Chris for sure.
So it was his charm. It was his charm that convinced you to stay, right?
I don't know. It was funny because the first warm up was a wall walk. Ooh. And I actually dislocated my finger on that wall walk the first time.
Oops.
I got pictures. I guess you should send that out. I got up from the wall. I looked at my finger.
Maybe they don't want you to talk anymore. That's okay.
It was sideways.
Oh, wow.
I pulled it back in place, and I finished that class.
Oh.
And I felt like it was okay. Mary gave me an ice pack to put on in between lifts. So I finished it, and then I went home, and then I couldn't do anything for about 2 weeks because it was so swollen after that.
Oh.
And then Mary eventually called me because I hadn't called back. And yeah, I joined right after that, and I haven't
All right.
been here ever since.
That's good. See, people, even if we break pieces of your body, you still come back. Something's working in there.
But it is hard.
It is.
Like for me, being like, I consider myself pretty coordinated, pretty athletic, but it's hard. It's not. It's like, for me, it's kind of like learning a new sport. It was like.
It is, yeah.
It's like it was for me. It was like playing basketball without knowing how to shoot. It was like so different. So I haven't picked up I don't think I ever really picked up a barbell ever.
Really?
We had a workout program in university, but I was so busy with my engineering program that I really couldn't keep up with that. So yeah, so it was hard. It was different.
Very
So
good.
even like it's people who haven't worked out before, people who aren't athletic. I think it's hard for everyone. It doesn't matter how athletic, how much you've worked out in the past. If you haven't done this, there's skills there that that aren't natural. You gotta learn them.
Yeah, well, like Margaret said, she'd never done any form of exercise, and this was real. I mean, that is really hard to do. And
yeah, I can imagine for
CrossFit. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear it. I like to hear this. Peter,
How you doing?
what are you going to tell
How's
us?
everyone today?
We're all good today,
Well,
Peter.
like Giuseppe, my story's a little bit long, but I'll try to summarize it as much as possible.
Okay.
Years and years ago, I was in martial arts. I was in a part of the Jeet Kune Do family of Canada. And over the years, we started doing seminars and workshops at a CrossFit on Carlaw Avenue, owned by John Vivian and his wife, Machko. I don't know if you know these people, John Vivian. And so we would go in there to do these seminars, and there are these people doing these crazy workouts and pull-ups and, and all kinds of lifts and going crazy. So we started to incorporate that into our seminars and workshops. So that's how I was introduced into CrossFit. And in 2009, oddly enough, I saw a little ad somewhere about a free 2-week membership. I was living in Markham at the time, and I thought I'd try it, and I ended up at this garage on Anderson Avenue, and I'm like, what kind of place is this, And it was a 2-week free membership, and I remember a young fellow named Steve Cristini, who was there almost every night. Nice guy, and his brother, who had like trees like legs like a tree trunk, Chris. And there was another lady there. She had short dark hair. I forget her name, but they sort of introduced me to the CrossFit Markham, and I was there. But on my 13th day, I was doing deadlifts, and I pulled a muscle in my side. And it was pretty bad. Like I was out of commission for quite a few weeks. And then I ended up eventually moving to Toronto, and met a girl, had some kids. So I got away from that sort of thing for a long time. And then I just remember 2015 and 2016 were really rough years for me. At the end of my relationship with my kid's mother, that ended in 2015, and right around Halloween or just after Halloween 2015, doing a very normal activity, I tore the meniscus in my right knee. And I was misdiagnosed at first. I went through a couple months of physio, and finally went to see a knee surgeon, and he diagnosed my tear. And then he called me up, I think just a few days before Christmas holidays, when I had all this stuff planned out. He had a surgery spot open on the 23rd of December. So I had my surgery, and it was only supposed to be 45 minutes, but oddly enough, 2.5 hours later, I was out of surgery, and he told me that he thought originally he just had to clean it out, but he had to sew some stuff, clean it out, found some other stuff. So a 4 to 6 week rehab was actually 4 to 6 months. So that really sucked. So after I rehabbed my knee, I joined Iron Fitness. Anyone ever heard of them?
No.
right on the other side of CrossFit Markham. And I was lifting weights and working out like I was a young man again. And I threw out my shoulder. I actually tore my AC joint, like lifting like 60-pound, doing 60-pound shoulder presses. So I decided after 4 months of rehab, I gotta like sort of maybe like find a better system for me. And I remembered CrossFit from 2009, and a lot of people I know in the CrossFit world and do CrossFit. And at the time I was living on Williamson, which is like 5 minutes away from CrossFit. So I decided to go back. And I was a little apprehensive at first, but you guys had like a 2-month special, it was $99 or something like that. So I'm like, you know, I can't really lose here. And I think on my first day I walked in, I was very apprehensive, and I can't remember if it was Steve or Chris, but I told them what had happened with my knee and my shoulder. And, you know, I'm like, the doctor said I shouldn't be doing stuff like this, but, you know, I'm stubborn anyways, right? And I think they pulled a few people out of the class. A girl who had knee surgery, I think it was an MCL or ACL sprain. I think Gord was there. He had some problems with his knee. So they showed me 3 people that had had knee problems, similar or worse than mine, that are squatting, deadlifting, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And they're like, well, Pete, you know, I mean, it's up to you. So I tried it for a couple months, and I remember I could barely even do a quarter squat when I first joined. And then, you know, next thing I know, I'm powerlifting with Ben and squatting almost 400 pounds. So it's definitely made changes in my life. Definitely. Right. From where I was when I walked in the door, you know, my shoulder was still weak, but I did some strengthening in rehab, but it wasn't quite. But next thing you know, I'm doing, you know, I'm doing like toes to bars. I'm doing strict pull-ups. These are stuff that my doctor said I shouldn't do, and I probably couldn't do. So yeah, it's been very, very beneficial to me over the past 3 years.
Awesome. Good to hear. I know you're working on a shoulder injury right now, but you've got, is it Alex who's working with you?
Oscar,
sorry, yeah. So, well, good. That's great to hear. I love it. All right. Guess who's left? Lydia. Sandra, you're next, by the way.
Oh, there's someone else.
Yes, of course it's your turn, Lydia. I think I know why you're there, but you tell us why you're there.
Well, you know, it's always coming from my husband. So he's the one who found CrossFit, and I think he was looking for a gym. Well, he was looking for weightlifting training. Mm-hmm. So he found Yuki. I think that's how he started, and he was he was in the program with Yuki, and then at some point he met Ben, I guess, and started doing personal training with him. And during that time, he kept bugging me and saying, oh, you should try it. You should see all the different kind of people are in there. You should come. It's not that hard, right? Because I'm afraid I have no athletic background whatsoever. May have joined gyms here and there. Oh, okay. Then I did do, because we signed my daughter up for personal training at Anytime Fitness. She didn't want to do it anymore. So I took the rest of it. And at least I had something started, because I don't know what would have happened if I showed up like as raw as I was. But so then I was also looking for stress relief, because I just gotten past about 4 years of caring for my parents who were ill and everything else. And started with yoga. And then a year after that, Hugh finally convinced me to come in. It was a summer, and he said, you can come in for a free class. I guess he had asked somebody, or not a free class, but come in for a try, right? And so I did come in, and Ben took me around and showed me the gym and made a few jokes. And I think he was teaching the class that day. It was a Saturday. So I started with CrossFit Light, which is really funny, because now that I don't take CrossFit Light, I am shocked that I was doing CrossFit Light. And I was doing that. And then one day I asked you, Anna, do you think I could handle the CrossFit, the regular CrossFit? And you said, yeah, sure. And then it's like, I think because Karen was interested in trying it.
Yes,
and
we both did it.
So we were both in there, and it was like, oh my God, I preferred the pace, because my brain, when it's going so fast like that, yeah, I find it hard to like keep up with a lot of when there's a lot of different changes in the class. But what was good about it at the beginning was that, oh my God, you had no time to think about anything else. Like you only could just do, even though I had trouble keeping up, that's all you had time to think about. So you could like, you forgot about the rest of your world while you were in there. So that was really good. And then, and then it kind of stuck.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been good. It's been good. Yeah. I feel much better. So
and stronger.
Yeah, like it's slower for me, but because like someone else mentioned, I get joint problems, and I really have to listen sometimes to that. But I'm like a lot more surprised about myself, because even like my sister will be like shocked that I can do stuff. She lives at a cottage, so the last summer I was moving boulders, and it was funny. I said, no, I can handle this. And she was like, going, holy crap, Lydia.
That was good. That's good.
I think it's so funny when people say, oh, I was only doing the light classes. I'm like, are you kidding me? The light classes are so much harder than most of the CrossFit classes.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, yes.
No, they're no joke. They're not light.
There's no light in light fit.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, because it never
stops. That was the plan all along. Just to make people think that it was going to be easy. It worked. But it's so much easier to transition them into a CrossFit class when they're like, wait a minute, this is not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, you get to focus more on like different parts, right? Whereas the light class just goes zoom.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Pretty much. Sandra, so I know that, I know how you came to be. How did you actually start CrossFit from the beginning? Not necessarily with us, but just CrossFit in general. How did that start? Me can't hear you. Can't hear you. Can you guys hear her? No, we can't hear you, honey. Still can't hear you. She's like, what is going on? No, she's not talking to us anymore.
Type it.
That's weird, because before we spoke and I could hear you before.
I know.
Act it out.
Oh, now I can hear you.
Okay. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, so I came into CrossFit. Actually, I did my first couple of CrossFit workouts back in 2011 when I was at Western University. I had a couple of Australian friends who were like, oh, Sandra, you like working out? Do the couple of these things. And I was like, okay. And I liked it. And then I kind of just kept on this working these really intense boot camps and stuff. And that was kind of like my field. Then I went to Teachers College up in North Bay. And after Teachers College, I got a full-time job at Good Life as a personal trainer and fitness instructor. So I was working at Good Life for a couple of years. And I was teaching boot camp classes, and CrossFit started up in North Bay. And a couple of my clients were like, we're also going to try out CrossFit. And I was like, yeah, I follow some of the CrossFit stuff. I've done some of the CrossFit WODs. I knew about CrossFit for a while. I just wasn't doing it myself. Mm-hmm. So they went over, they were loving it. And they're like, Sandra, you need to come over and do this. So I was like, okay. So I went to the local box, and I loved it from my first workout. I signed up right away for the full-time membership you could. Except at the time, I was single, living in North Bay, trying to rent my own house, trying to pay off my schooling, trying to get a teaching job in North Bay, which is impossible. So I was working at 3 gyms, and I was working at Sports Check, and I was working at a tutoring facility. So I was working all these jobs. So I approached the coach at the CrossFit gym, because this is a couple months in, and I asked him if I could start to shadow to maybe coach there, because I needed a way to justify a membership, and if I could coach, if that would pay for my membership. And he loved the idea, because I had so much background in the fitness industry already, that he was like, yeah, your crossover is so good. So right away, I pretty much did my level 1 within the first 4 or 5 months of starting CrossFit.
And that in itself is a fortune.
Yeah. But it was
in US dollars, yeah.
I know, but I knew if I invested in that, then I could save money throughout the year on my membership.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And then we were in North Bay. So I did CrossFit in North Bay for about 2 years. My husband got a job offered as an apprenticeship for HVAC down south here. So we ended up moving back down south to Bolton. We moved in with my parents. So there's a CrossFit gym, as Giuseppe knows, in Bolton. So he was there. I think I know who he's talking about, Anthony. Talking about Anthony there, ball hockey.
Yeah, Anthony. I'm friends with Anthony and Rose and all those guys.
Yeah, Anthony's awesome. I was actually talking to him on the phone a couple of days ago. He's asking me what type of rower to buy.
Yeah, he's trying to find somewhere else to exercise now that other one shut down.
Yeah. So I worked at Bolton for about 1.5 years, and then during that time frame, I ended up meeting Sasha at this competition thing before they went to the games. Mm-hmm. Steve would have been there. I was like competing against Sasha at this like ball showdown thing. And so Sasha and I talked a lot. So I ended up following Sasha, who's like a former coach at the gym guys. And we ended up working out together, and they asked me to join the team. And then, so what happened was I transitioned to working out more at Woodbridge just because I wanted to be around my teammates. I wanted to get better, and they pushed me to the point that CrossFit Bolton was charging me a membership as a coach as well. So I just was like, they're not going to charge me a membership if I go to East Woodbridge. So I just did the jump and went to East Woodbridge. And then slowly Chris was like, oh, you know what? Can you coach a class for me today? Can you do this? And then it was like the next summer they lost a personal trainer, and then I just ended up taking all that personal trainer's clients until they found someone to hire, and then I just give them up to them. So I'm just always like rotating in and out of roles at the gym, which I love though.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Good. Oh, well, that's everybody. That's awesome. Steve, you got something to say? No. He's not even listening to me.
Sorry, I've been like trying to figure out how to fix my webcam in the background. We've got computers down and things like that.
Oh, no. That's okay.
I'm lost. Sorry.
Steve was, hey, he tells you his story. I know you guys have heard his story quite often, how he wasn't so much into the athleticism. He played hockey for a bit, got traded off as a young kid that they on a house league team that they should not have traded him off. They kind of, put him back a little bit. He did Muay Thai with his brother. He competed for a while. I know you traveled a bit too, right, Steve? You guys I remember you guys went to New York and.
I went to Florida. I fought in Florida.
Okay. And I mean, of all people, we didn't think that Steve would, he liked it, but when he came in up to us and said, Mom, Chris, I'm in whether you like it or not. Here we go. We are a trio, and we're opening this gym, and this is what we're doing. And he took the bull by the horns, and ever since we've just kept on running and going and going. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty good. And that's it. All right. No, I'm really glad you guys all told me the story, because one thing about, like I've said, everyone has a story. Everyone has great stories, not necessarily just about CrossFit, but it's the backstories. Like I loved your backstory, Margaret. I've heard that many times. People have told me, this got me out of a funk. It got me out of my own head, because I get so stuck in my own head. And whereas here I come to this gym and you push me to another level of things that I could never think I could do. Right, Lydia? Like you said, you've done stuff, but you've never thought, oh, I can do this. It's like, yes. And then, oh, I can do this. So you know what? Something might happen outside of the gym. And hey, can I do this? Well, if I can lift 100 pounds, and I can for sure go out and do more and do this. So I'm really glad you guys joined me. Maybe we'll do it again and get some other stories. I think it's pretty awesome. And that's it.
And I think I had told you about that. I had the incident at Canadian Tire where I was buying that bag of salt.
Yes, and, tell the story.
This guy, well, I was first asking where it was, and it was at the back. And I had brought a cart, and this guy goes, oh, I can get that for you. And he struggled so hard to get that sack into the buggy. And I just let him do it, because I'm not, what am I going to say? I'm not going to start.
You don't want to show off.
And yeah, and so then I, rolled it out, paid for it. And then when I picked it up to throw it in my car, I said, oh my God, this is so much easier than he made it look. And I was pretty happy knowing that I could handle it, because I still had to get it out of the trunk and bring it into the garage. So yeah, I was happy that I could handle it. But I said, oh my God, the guy was really having a hard time.
You should have given Mark
I don't want to say, hey, yeah. But so those things I enjoy.
Yeah, I get it, for sure, for sure. All right, guys. Well, thanks for jumping in on the call. Thanks for joining me. And like I said, maybe we'll do it again. Hopefully we'll get some more people telling their stories. Because once you get started, at first I'm sure you're nervous, like, and then you tell the story. And that's what we want to hear. All right, so join us tomorrow, again at 12. And what are we talking about tomorrow, Steve?
It's not confirmed yet, but it's either Rob is talking about something which I don't know, or it's Maria and Jordana are talking about competing in bikini competitions, eating, like basically eating disorders that are often related with it, and a lot of other things that are associated with kind of the visual side of kind of women's sports.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you, Anna.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.